This is Cycle 2, Week 2 mirror image drawing for ages 10 to 11. And on the left, we have the geometric face of the bear, and the student's job is going to do the mirror image drawing on the right. So on your board, you will either have the same printout of this image, or you can draw it on your board with your whiteboard marker. And the students will have their image on the table in front of them printed out by you. So on my paper, I'm going to be using blue to show you where the drawing will be, and I'll walk you through as if I was walking it through with the students. So on the left, we can see that the bear's face has all of these straight lines which make up the outline. So we're going to be doing a mirror image. So if it's on the left, we're going to be doing the same thing on the right. At the top, I'll start here at this point, and I can see that the line goes straight across. So I'll be doing that same straight line, but the opposite way. And on the left, it goes downward to the next point. So I will go here and also go downward. And on the left, it goes down and out just a little bit. So I will go down and out, down and in on the left. So from here, I will go inward a little bit. And then finally, we have a longer line that really angles toward the center. So this one will angle way in toward the center. So that's the easy part. Now, of course, we have a lot of other geometric shapes happening and a lot of straight and angled lines that we need to do on the other side. If we look at the ear on the left, we can see that the points meet up on these edges here. So finding this point on this side where it begins, I'm going to go ahead and find the point on the opposite side as well. We want to talk through about how the line goes up, over, over, down, down. So I'm going to do that same shape, but on the other side, going the opposite direction. So it's going to angle out, over, over again, down. Now it's going to meet up with that point there. It's not going to be perfect. That's okay. Try and do your very best to have it be a mirror image, but it's okay if it's a little bit off. Inside of that shape that we just did, we see a secondary shape that's also these straight lines almost identical to the one above it. It comes in a little bit from that point, so on this side, I'll come in a little bit from the point, and this is where I can begin. So again, I go up, over, over, down, and then meet here at that line. Now comes the slightly more confusing part. We have a lot of lines intersecting in the bear's face. So where do we begin? That is a good question. If we need to start making some, basically like a diagram, we need to start marking off points that are the same on the left as the right. So for example, this is a major point that's on the left. I want to duplicate that point on the right. So if I find it here and I say, if I go straight up, it lines up with this area of the ear. And I can find that same area of the ear on this side and come down and line up this point with the other point. So this is kind of like a map of where my lines will go based on where they are on the left. Another line that we need is right here. And it's slightly in from that point of the ear. So if I come into this point and I come down, I can also mimic that point on the left and on the right. So this is giving me a good beginning and end point now that I can follow. This line goes from the ear down to this point, so I'll do the same on this side. The students will be able to see how this comes together fairly quickly, but continue to ask them to walk through with you. So ask them, okay, we have that, and what should we do next? This is a little trickier. What do we do? Well, this side point, they can say, comes in to that middle line. And we could do that same line on this side. They could also talk about how this point on the left from the ear comes down to that center point. So then we could do that one next. So whatever they're explaining to the group, then we'll go ahead and do that line as a group. This line comes up from the bottom to that point, but where at the bottom does it start? So is it a third of the way over, half? Where on this section does it begin? And it's about a halfway on that line. So we can do a dot halfway on this line and have it be the same. It now connects with that point there. Now, the students will tell you again what they think you should do next, so they can find some lines around the eyes and be able to describe what the lines are doing and where the lines are going. So this line goes from the center up to the point. We can do another one from the center and up the opposite way to that point. Maybe this one next, it goes from the center down to that point. So we can go from the center and down to that point. And then the last one is from this section here to there. There's different ways you could do this. You can say this point is about halfway along that line, like that. Or you could say it's about this high. So if I trace my finger all the way across my page, it'll be about that high. So there's different methods we could use to find out where things are that would be the same on both sides. And I'll connect that. Since we're doing geometric shapes only today, we have this perfect circle on the left for the eye, and we want to make sure that it's in the same spot on the other side. So I can have the top point and use my finger or my pencil to find the bottom point. This way we have as close to a mirror image as we can. There we go. And of course inside we have a filled in dot using that oil vocabulary of dots and circles and angled lines and all that stuff. All right. And the last thing is going to be the bear's nose and his mouth. On the left we have a triangle. We want to make sure that we get the same length of triangle on both sides. So they can either use their pencil to measure it or just eyeball it and try and do that, that same size triangle on the right hand side. And then same on the left. This line goes just slightly past the edge of the triangle. So I want this line to also just go slightly past the edge of that triangle. So we're going to always compare the beginning and ending points of things with other points along the same image. Once you and the students have completed all the lines on both sides, then you can go in and talk about the geometric patterns that the students can do inside of the bear's face. Make a list on your board of different geometric shapes and have the students help you think of them. So things like squares, diamonds, rectangles, circles, filled in dots, dashed lines, dotted lines, all things like that that are nice and straight can happen inside of the bear's face. So once you have a good list going, have the students go ahead and begin doing their own patterns on their bear's face, whatever they choose to do. The only thing is it has to be the same on the left-hand side as on the right. If they choose to do some straight lines on the bear's ear on this side, then they need to be doing that same pattern on the ear on this side, for example. Or if they choose to do triangles in this area, then they need to also do triangles in the opposite side on this area. So make sure that they are doing a mirror image even with their patterns. Have the students keep this area around the eye blank. That will be the focal point of the drawing, and we want to make sure that there's some areas that are not too busy, so they can add all sorts of patterns to the other places, but just keep the eye and even possibly around the snout blank.